Hey, everybody, this is the Marketing with a Twang podcast. I'm your host, Ben Blackman. And on this episode, we're going to talk about why everybody else's Facebook ads seem to be working except yours. Welcome to episode number 1.
All right. It's time for Marketing with a Twang, your down home, no BS online marketing show. So pull up a chair and ease on in with your host, Ben Blackman.
All right, everybody, let's get this started. Episode number 1 of Marketing with a Twang. Now, if you happen to listen to my other podcast, Facebook Ads with a Twang, thank you. And I appreciate you coming over here to listen to Marketing with a Twang as well. If you haven't listened to Facebook Ads with a Twang, you can still listen to it. You can still find it. I recorded about 100 episodes or so, and they're super short, like 10 minutes or less, except for just maybe a couple of them where I did some interviews. But on Marketing with a Twang, part of the reason I decided to do this is so I could expand a little further than just focusing on Facebook ads. Now, I realize this first episode is sort of about Facebook ads, but you'll understand why in just a minute. So if you're looking to get information, especially if you're a late to the game entrepreneur. In other words, if you're over 40 and you're just now getting into the entrepreneur game, maybe you're a coach or consultant, or you're just trying to take your skill set and turn it into, your primary business, then this is a perfect place to start, especially if you haven't done this kind of stuff before. So as we get started with this, I'm going to keep most of these episodes relatively short. I'm going to have guests from time to time, so you don't have to listen to me drone on and on. But most of the time, I'm going to try to keep these focused and fast. Okay? All right, so the first thing is let's talk about the 3 myths when it comes to Facebook ads. And by the way, you want to ask yourself whether you should even be running ads anyway. Most people, when I see them start running ads, they're not actually ready for it. They're just ready to get started. Like they can't wait, right? They think that, I don't know what they think exactly, but a lot of times it seems like they just want to see if they can't get any traction by boosting a post, because boosting a post is running an ad. And if you don't know what boosting a post means, don't worry about it. You don't need to know what it means just yet anyway. But let's just talk about the 3 major myths that when it comes to really comparing your ads to somebody else's. So a lot of people think, and I've been told this before, that there's some secret targeting option or, some kind of checkbox that if you only knew about it would make all your ads work, or that somehow certain accounts are getting preferential treatment in that regard. Well, that's not true. Now, there are accounts that do get preferential treatment, but not from targeting. Targeting is the same for everybody. So if you can't blame the targeting, then it's got to be your ad or your offer. So that, I know that's tough to hear, but that's the way it is. So targeting, there's no magic check boxes. The second thing is copycatting. So a lot of people will take somebody else's ad, make minor changes. I mean, this happens a lot, and then try to use it as their own ad, and it totally tanks. Well, the reason it doesn't work most of the time is you're not being authentic. So the key to Facebook ads, and frankly, ads on any social media, has to do with being authentic and being yourself. And if you're not able to do that, or you're not able to get that to come across, then you're going to have a tougher time. Okay. It's not like doing direct mail. It's not like doing billboard ads, TV ads, stuff like that. It's not the same. So be authentic and your ads will work much better. And then the last thing is, and this is something you just want to think about when it comes to other people and their ads, is you don't really know how the sausage is made, right? You don't know what they've tested or how much money they're spending or what kind of targeting they're doing, what their back end looks like. Like maybe they're taking huge losses on the front end just so because they have a big offer on the back end and they know the metrics. Most people do not figure out that when they start running ads. They're looking at their offer that's right in front of them, and it's the only offer that they have. And so they either try to run ads straight to it, and if it doesn't convert, at a reasonable return, then they immediately think that Facebook ads don't work. And that's nothing could be further from the truth. Most of the time, you're going to lose money on your initial ads, but just because you're gathering data. So when you're comparing yourself to somebody else's ads, or what you're doing with your ads to somebody else's, and you're like, my ad's just as good, or my offer's just as good, or whatever it is, you don't know what all they've necessarily done to get there. So take it easy on yourself is what I'm getting at. Remember that you're buying data. You're trying to get some data in. You're trying to figure it out. Okay. It's okay to look at somebody else's ads and get some ideas and thoughts and everything. But, trying to make yours like theirs is not really, or comparing yours to theirs is not really a fair comparison. So here's some things that you might want to think about why your ads may not be working. And the first thing is it's your offer. When I say offer, I don't necessarily mean your offer to purchase. It could be an offer to join your webinar, right? Or a challenge or lead magnet, whatever, right? It could be that it's just not that great. It's not that compelling. So you have to have a compelling offer, especially if it's a freebie. And the reason I say that is because freebies are indicators to the people who are opting in of what the rest of your stuff is going to look like. And if you have a crappy freebie or kind of a plain Jane freebie, then that's not going to work into sales very well. The next thing has to do with messaging and just how you're coming across. As I was talking about before about being authentic, you really have to be authentic with what you're saying. I know I've said that like 3 times already, but I just want to reiterate that. And your messaging has to be congruent with your audience, not necessarily what you think the audience would want to hear, but what they say they want to hear. And a lot of people, especially coaches and consultants and such, they are their own client, right? So they say, well, this is what I would like. I'm my own type of client, or so I know this is what they would like, but they don't consider that maybe the majority of their people may not feel the same way. Okay, and so they won't adjust their messaging based on the feedback they're getting from their audience. So I would encourage you to do that. Now, the third thing of why they may not be working is not budgeting correctly. Now, I'm going to go over this in some detail in a later episode. I think it's actually the next episode, and we'll talk about budgeting, but you have to budget correctly. It will keep you from pulling your hair out. I'm just telling you, and we'll talk about that. The next one is not having a clear objective. So randomly boosting posts. People do that all the time because they just want to get some traction, like I talked about before. Or not being specific about what they're trying to accomplish with what they're running the ads for. So they don't really define a plan for measuring it, or they don't define a plan for testing things. And it causes a lot of frustration because they're not sure what they should be doing. Now, look, the good news is during this podcast, we're going to be going over this stuff many times. Okay. We're going to go over all these things in detail so that you know exactly what to do. It's not going to happen overnight, but most of the time ads don't work overnight. You usually don't hit a home run the first time you put out a few ads. Okay. And in fact, most of the time what happens is if you put out 10 ads, you might have one that works. But when that one works, it really works. All right. The last thing that really is a detriment to a lot of people why their ads aren't working is they have no patience with them. They just can't seem to relax. Okay. They don't see a click. They don't see an opt-in. They don't see a purchase. And, within the span of a couple of hours, and they think something's not working, or even a span of a couple of days. And so a lot of that depends on, what your budget is. And more importantly, how many unique people have seen your ad, because that's kind of the key to it. So if in terms, and because I think that a lot of people have misconception about how many people need to see the ad, but in any kind of social media, you really have to have a lot of people, because when you're setting up a targeting audience, it doesn't mean everybody in that audience is an ideal person to see your ad. That's not how it works. So even when you do it when you're very narrow with your targeting, so you may need to get 2,000 people to see it, right? Or at least 1,000 or 1,500. And a lot of people, if they've only 500 people have seen it, or 200 people, and they think the ads aren't working, and it may not be working, but that's too early to know. So being impatient is not a good quality when it comes to running ads. And listen, I'm just as impatient as anybody when it comes to running their own ads. Now, for my agency, no, I'm as patient with my clients' ads. I know exactly what's going to happen. But my own ads, yeah, I get that. I really do. So also kind of remember that if you're doing e-commerce type stuff versus coaching, those are going to have two different sets of measurement. And it's hard to compare those two because what your goals are and what your key performance indicators are going to be are completely different, and even how you test. So I think I want to tell you this just real quick as just a quick tip on how to test, because to make it easy for you is that you can get fancy all you want, but the easiest thing to do when you're setting up your ads is just have two sets of copy and one image or one video and run them both at the same time and see which one wins. Okay, now Facebook's going to pick a winner fast, so you want to make sure the one that's winning is actually winning by looking at the other ad and seeing how many people have actually seen it. Okay, and you may need to make some adjustments there, but try to keep it simple and try not to overwhelm yourself, because that happens a lot too. In fact, that probably should have made the list of not getting overwhelmed. All right, that's all I have for this first episode. Really, really grateful you're listening to it. If there's anything I can do, let me know, and I'll catch you on episode number 2. See you then. Are you late getting into the entrepreneur game? I got you covered. Grab my free newsletter at marketingwithatwang.com, and each week you'll get bite-sized, no BS marketing strategies just for you. Get it at marketingwithatwang.com. I'll see you next time.